Hey, friends. This is Dave Maslin, and I'm here. I want to talk to you for a few minutes today about how to meet the goals that we have in our lives and our ministries a little bit more consistently. How can we achieve the things that we know God's called us to do, and we're struggling to get there? How can we make that happen more consistently? And to get at that today, what I want to talk about is a great book that if you haven't already read it, I hope you will. It's called The Four Disciplines of Execution, and and the subtitle of that is Achieving Your Wildly Important Goals. And it's written by very famous Sean Covey, the best-selling author Sean Covey, and a couple of his colleagues, Chris McKenzie and Jim Huling. And again, if you haven't already read it, I strongly suggest that you do read it. But this video today is a kind of a step into that, kind of a look into some of the key concepts of that book that I think will help all of us to meet our goals. So the big concepts that I want to talk about in this book today are the idea of the difference between lag indicators and lead indicators. And those are just kind of big words, a phrase that maybe you haven't heard before that get at a really important concept. Um, Lag indicators and lead indicators are both goals, but lag indicators are kind of the big goals that we have that point to our purpose, either as individuals or as an organization. They point at our reason for being, really. And I'm going to give you some examples of this in a few minutes. But for the church, a lag indicator would clearly be what we constantly say the purpose of the church is to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. Now that sounds great, and it's something that most people can repeat, and yet actually making that a reality is something most churches struggle with. And so it's important, I think, to think about that as a lag indicator. Make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation world. That's what we're trying to do. But it helps us if we follow Covey and his friends and we think about breaking down a goal like that into lead indicators. Now, a lead indicator is a goal that we actually have control over, an action, a behavior that you and I have control over right now, today, something I can do now, and the other people in the church or the organization that I'm in can actually do right now to bring about the lag indicator that we really want to have. It's about behavior. Lead indicators are things that we have the power to bring influence by our behavior right now. These lead indicators, these behaviors that we can have control over, we do them because they are predictive. We believe they can predict us getting more of what we say we want is in our lag indicator. Now, let me just give a few examples of this before I get back to the church. A good example, an illustration of this is, let's just say that my goal is to buy a house. My wife and I are thinking about retirement, and let's just say we want to buy a house. Now that sounds good, sounds like a good goal. It's kind of, it's a future goal. It's something that's out there for us, and we say we want it. But the problem is, if all we ever do is we say someday we're going to buy a house, and we don't break that down into smaller goals and actually behaviors, actions that we can take now, we'll probably never get there. It's going to be hard for us to get there. So as we think about buying a house, we could break that down into lots of little steps that we could take. One of them is just realizing, oh my gosh, well, if we want to buy a house, we're going to have to make a down payment. And to make a down payment, we're going to need actually some money to do that. And so an example of a lead indicator, the lag indicator is, again, buying a house. It's something we want down the road. A lead indicator is a behavior, an action that I can take right now, my wife and I can take right now to get us closer to being able to buy a house. And an example of that might be that we make a commitment that every time we get a paycheck over the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to put $300 into a savings account. That's very specific. It is an action that I have control over right now that will get us closer to that lag indicator that we want of buying a house. It's predictive of actually reaching the goal that we have of buying a house, because as we save money every single time we get a paycheck, we put money in there, we'll see that grow to the point where we can actually imagine making a down payment. So that's an example. Again, lag indicator, buying a house. Lead indicator is the behavior of saving money every single time we get a paycheck, saving money for a down payment. Number two, another example is actually a personal example from my life too. One of the things, many of you know, that one of my hobbies is playing disc golf. I'm in a club, and we're not playing now because of COVID-19, but most Tuesday nights we gather together. There's about 30 of us in the group. We gather together and we play disc golf in a league together, just like a golf league or a bowling league. But we throw frisbees at baskets, and it's just one of my favorite things to do. I've been playing for a number of years in that league, and one of my kind of personal goals is that my average in playing rounds of golf at this course that we play typically will continue to go down. So a couple of years, my average for the summer was around 65 strokes for a round. Last summer, I played better, and my average stroke was a little bit over 62, which was great. But I just keep seeing these guys that are better than me that consistently score under 60, and it seems like it's hard for me to do that. So my goal for this year, if we ever get back on the course again, is to get my average strokes for a round of disc golf at that home course under 60, for my average to be under 60. Now, that sounds like a great goal. That the lag indicator is that my average will be under 60. Question is, how can I get there? Well, I could break that down a number of different ways, but one of the things that I could do, and actually I've been trying to do, I can't play at the course, but I do have a basket in my backyard, and I could actually practice putting. It's just like real golf. Putting in disc golf is the most important thing you do to lower your score. And so I set a goal that every day I'm going to go out and I'm going to throw 50 putts every day at the basket. I can just go out there in my backyard. It takes about 10 minutes to do it, and I can practice. So the lag indicator is, the goal of getting my average score under 60. The lead indicator, some behavior that I have control over right now every single day that is predictive of my score going down, is practicing putting 50 putts a day. That's the lead indicator. It is a behavior that I can do now that points to getting to the lag indicator down the road. Now, a third example, I'm going to get into the church now and new faith communities as you're seeking to grow your churches. A lag indicator you might have is something like, we want more new people to come to our church or to our small groups or to our new faith community gatherings. We want more new people. It's kind of a goal everybody wants, to grow their church. And let's just say you can even be specific about that we want 2 or more new visitors at our church every week. Let's just say that's a goal that you set. Now that sounds like a great goal. It's a perfectly good thing. But it's a lag indicator. I hope you can see that there's no behavior necessarily that I can have control over. We're hoping the behavior of other people will change and they'll start to come. But it's not something I have control over. That's what makes it a lag indicator. A lead indicator, and again, there's lots of different things a new faith community or church can do to bring new people to their gatherings, to their online worship, or to their in-person small groups or in-person worship services every week. There's lots of different things you could try. But one lead indicator might be that I, as a leader, decide we need to actually build relationships with more new people. If we want new people to come, we have to be intentional about building new relationships. So I might, one lead indicator might be for me to personally set a goal that I'm going to have 2 conversations every week with people who are not members of the church. that I'm just going to try to build relationships with people that are not in the church. Even better, I might actually think to myself, well, I'm going to actually recruit 5 people or 4 or 5 people, and the 5 or 6 of us are all going to have 2 conversations with people that are not in the church every week to build relationships with them that can lead to eventually inviting them to come to church. Every week, 6 of us are going to talk to 2 people, and those 12 people will eventually all get invited to church, and hopefully some of them will begin to come. Again, the lag indicator is 2 new people visiting our church every week in some capacity. The lead indicator is the behavior of actually going out, having conversations with people that are not attending church already, intentionally training, equipping 5 other people with me so that there's actually 12 conversations with unchurched people every week. That is a lead indicator, something that is predictive that over time, if we consistently have conversations with 12 unchurched people every week, build relationships with them and begin inviting them to come, that we're going to have more visitors in church. That makes sense? Lag indicator, more people in church. Lead indicator is the behavior of actually talking and building relationships with new people. One final thought. Very soon, you will be hearing from the annual conference a goal that we're setting out for every church, every new faith community, every existing church in Upper New York. The goal is, no matter the size of the church, 20 people or 300 people, that in the next 6 months between July 1st and the end of 2020, that every new faith community or every church will make 1 new disciple, at least 1. So that's the lag indicator. The goal, and if you just begin thinking about your own faith community, your own church, what would it mean for your church to find 1 new person who says yes to following Jesus, to faith in Jesus Christ, and to committing to being part of a small group where they are growing in their faith? What would it mean to add 1 new person that maybe has never been a Christian, or maybe it's been 30 years since they've been in a church? They've walked a long, long ways away from God. What would it mean to bring 1 new person back into a relationship with Jesus, or in a relationship with Jesus for the first time? Now, that's a great goal, but it's a lag indicator. I want to make sure you see that. What you need to figure out is, in order for your church to do that, what do you have to do? What are the actions? What are the behaviors that you and others in your church could take part in over the next 6 months to increase the chances that 1 new person isn't just going to visit the church, but is going to become a follower of Jesus Christ with you? For a lead indicator, what we have been suggesting, what we've been working on in our conference actually for the last 2 or 3 years, is suggesting that the main lead indicator for churches, for new faith communities, is to have a disciple-making pathway that you are living into, that you're following every single week, that people are continually being invited to kind of take the next step in terms of their own discipleship, their own relationship with God. And so a lead indicator for you, an action for you and your faith community right now, might be just actually building a disciple-making pathway. Maybe you haven't done that yet. Maybe you've heard talk about it, you've read books about it, but you just haven't done it yet. What we're saying to you is the primary lead indicator that leads a church to make more new followers of Jesus Christ is actually to have a disciple-making plan, a pathway, a system that everyone's invited to participate in. And so if you haven't done that yet, that's the lead indicator, is to actually work on that, develop that, and begin to invite people into that. Or maybe you already have a disciple-making pathway, but it doesn't seem to be fruitful yet. It doesn't seem to be creating new disciples yet. So the question is, okay, what's the next lead indicator for us? What's the next action, the next behavior that we in our church can take to make it more likely that we'll be able to make that 1 new disciple between now and the end of the year? It might be to improve the pathway in some way, or it might be just to be a little bit more consistent about inviting people into the next step for them. Maybe inviting more people to participate in your online small groups that you're having right now, for instance, just to make more and more invitations to things like that. So I hope this is helpful for you in some way, this difference between lag indicators and lead indicators, between goals that are kind of point to our purpose. They're the most important things. They are the things that we're here for. And then lead indicators, the behaviors that I can participate in right now, and I can invite other people to participate with me, the actions that I can take that are predictive of actually getting more of what we say our most important goals are. Those are your lead indicators. And I'm encouraging you to figure out with your leaders today, what are your lag indicators? What are the goals that you've set that will get you closer to your purpose? And what are the lead indicators, the things that you're doing together right now that will get you closer to those goals? Please know that I'm praying for you as you work on these things, and at any point you'd like to have a conversation with me about it, please let me know. God bless.